Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to be looking at Chaos Space Marine datasheets, giving you a bit of my 5 unit highlights. One thing to preference this with is that, of course, we don't have points at the moment, at the point of me filming this anyway. So anything can be taken that if points can vary determining whether a unit is good because it's really cheap or bad because it's too expensive. That'll all play once we get the points. With that, let's have a look into the units. Let's start this off by looking at the War Master of Chaos, and that is going to be Abaddon the Despoiler. So in terms of stats, not bad, slightly higher wounds than most, but one thing he is maybe lacking is a bit of toughness. He isn't Terminator armor, he is the War Master. I would have really liked him to be in toughness 6 or maybe even toughness 7, wouldn't have gone amiss. Weapons, absolutely devastating. You know, the Talon of Horus in shooting is fine, we'll do a bit of damage there, attacks 4, 2 damage, sustained hits, that's fine. But in terms of melee, absolutely devastating. Now, he does have 2 profiles, the sweep and strike ones. They do have good amount of attacks on each one, good strength, good AP, and also has devastating wounds as well to really get some mortal wounds there as well. So yeah, in melee, this guy definitely wants to be there. In terms of abilities, we do have successful packs with Dark Destiny. You roll a d6 and gain a command point, so you can easily farm command points. That should be fairly reliable. You're always really going to want to start packs with them. And then you also have choose one ability in the command phase and last till the next. And you have a couple of options here. So you have 6-inch allows rerolls to hit, and that would be all hits and does affect him, which is quite nice. 6s gives infantry and mounts 4+ invul save. That's going to be very, very important depending on your playstyle. And 6 inches allows units to reroll leadership test and battle shock. And he has all 4 god keywords and undivided. So naturally, absolute monster in combat, he's going to want to be in the thick of it, just absolutely getting his points back by causing devastation there. The 4-up invul seems to be beneficial to many units in the codex. The only thing to keep in mind is that it's measured, I believe, from the model itself, it's not the unit. That is the auto ability, so you do need to think about your positioning with them carefully to make sure you get the maximum advantage of that one. Then there's a debate. Big one on this one is debate over the Dark Pact's keywords affecting his unit. Now, there's no argument, of course, if you take Dark Pact. I really think he gets all the benefits. He's got all the keywords. Does that carry over to the unit that he might be going with? Most likely going to be Terminators. I am not too sure on that one. I can see, however, how it can be argued quite a lot that it should, in which case it really, really does improve a Terminator unit, or Legionnaires if you decide to go with them, quite significantly. Overall, I think Abaddon is phenomenal. The points are really going to decide this one, because if he's absurdly pointed, maybe not so much, but really just does offer a lot. Absolute beat unit, go walking up the field. Yeah, Abaddon is still a monster. Maybe not as survivable as was before, but that was maybe ridiculously too survivable. No, he's definitely quite effective still. Accursed Cultists next, and a fairly new unit for the Chaos Space Marines, and it's good to see that they have some abilities here that are quite useful. So in terms of stats, not very tough, very poor save here, needs an invul buff, specifically from Abaddon. They do have Obsec 2 though, which is quite useful there. Possibly maybe a little bit slower than wanted, though 6 inches is fine. I just look at mutants and sometimes think they should be movement 7. In terms of weapons, the Blasphemous Appendages are fine, kind of cultists I suppose, but the Hideous Mutations are quite deadly. They are d6 plus 2 attacks, weapon skill 4+, strength 5, AP -1, 2 damage. Say you wanted to forgo the invul save, you decided to go for damage over survivability. Abaddon could, in theory, give them reroll hits, so there's that to consider as well. And then abilities, start of each player's turn, return 1 torment or 3 mutants. Now, very important part to put here is that's each player's command phase, so that really does help you return models quite a lot. You get 2 of the big beasts or 6 of the small ones in a battle round. So overall thoughts, as I said, returning models in each player's turn will make them a pain to fully shift, which is good. Can be taken along with a Dark Commune for buffs, and that offers a lot here. 1, they get the 5-up invul save, so maybe you don't need that from Abaddon. Icon allows you to reroll the Dark Pact ability when they have it. Makes them leadership 6 to make Dark Pact and Battle Shock a little bit more reliable, and then once per battle, they can advance and charge, and also +1 to hit and wound, and you have the Dark Commune along with them as well. That is a lot that the Dark Commune offers to these guys. So, as I said, Abaddon might be able to give that 4+ invul or the reroll hits, just need to be near him. Ank's a very interesting unit. Now, if you bring the Dark Commune, you can't be Khorne, which is almost the sort of one I was aiming for in there, but you can't. But Nurgle, for the stratagem to heal up later, what that means is that you can go Nurgle, and the stratagem I think gives you stealth, and then it makes it so you can't target them over a certain range, so if you manage to keep them a wee bit back, it means that they're a bit more survivable in that way. An option on that one there. Simply put, points will again decide in this one. I think if they're fairly cheap, they're going to be quite an effective unit. Run along with Abaddon. Obviously he's going to have his unit for protection, but make sure he's within aura of these guys and they'll benefit a lot from it. And then having the Dark Commune with them as well will really help the efficiency of this unit. Points are going to determine a lot, but the fact they can regenerate quite well, their attacks from hideous mutations can be a real pain. Yeah, I can see potential in here a lot. Looking into one of the Dino bots next, I'm not the biggest fan of these guys in terms of models, but in rules they have some potential, and that is the Forgefiend. So in terms of stats, fairly good. Toughness 10, 12 wounds, will keep in the game going a little bit longer, and a 5+ invul save, so that is interesting to look at there. In terms of weapons, now you are mainly using these for range, so you're going to go all in on that. The triple plasma seems to be the best loadout. It hits a lot harder, higher strength, AP and damage, which is all good, though you might be giving up some attacks there. That does allow it to choose its sort of targets a bit better in terms of you can threaten tougher units there, but it does have the blast keyword, so if you are targeting infantry, then you are just getting extra hits as well, depending on how many there are in the unit. So I just think with all the extra stats that it does have on it, I do lean towards the ectoplasma cannon just that wee bit more, but we can talk about the option of the Hades autocannon in a minute. In terms of abilities, can make ranged weapons, dev wounds and hazardous. So one thing to say in that one is that you have the potential of having that dev wounds with the Hades autocannon, because then you're getting that straight 6 shots. If you manage to get 6s, dev wounds, not bad, not bad. So I look at this as a real backfield unit for a few reasons, the obvious being it is a gun platform, but the potential of 3d3 plus blast or 12 plus d3, and these can be made dev wounds. Now with the ectoplasma, because they're dangerous enough, you might not want to, because you'd rolled hazardous for each weapon, and that's basically 3 dice, any ones you're going to be starting to receive mortal wounds on yourself, so you'd have to work out the calculations on that one. However, you might go big on it if you want, because however, with the Dark Pact of Nurgle, you can get sustained hits of 5+, which will result in a fair amount of extra hits in itself. How I look at it is taking 3 of these in the backfield, all close to each other, and with a Hellbrute, ideally out of line of sight. And when you do make those Dark Pact, as long as you're within the aura of the Hellbrute, you should get lethal hits and sustained hits, which will really help the efficiency for all 3 of these. Does mean you're in a wee packed unit together, but very, very interesting that, depending on points, but that does give you a battlefield gun platform of the 3 of these and the Hellbrute. Hellbrute can shoot as well, it can take last cannon, missile launcher, etc. Yeah, very interesting one. Points, again, going to depend on this one, but I can see a lot of potential for a lot of firepower from these guys. Next we have Possess, some of the units that got updated in their models recently, and really I just do think it was a massive improvement from the old models. So in terms of stats, really nice. They have movement 9, which is super fast, and nice toughness with toughness 6 and a 5 up invul save and 3 wounds. Weapons, their melee attacks, because they don't have any ranged, are not bad, 4 attacks each, though a bit low on the AP. AP minus 1's not great, but then again AP has gone down in the game as a whole, 2 damage being very nice there as well. And abilities, when they Dark Pact, they can gain devastating wounds, which is quite good there. So how would I use them? On a large unit, you're looking at 40 attacks and looking for those devastating wounds. Slanesh Dark Pact to give you sustained hits 5+, which is good. You can also use Strat to advance and charge, which would be really, really useful just to keep going with in terms of momentum. If you go Undivided, you can reroll hit rolls of 1, but you can also use Strat to reroll all hits and all wounds, which is very nice in on itself, because obviously there's higher chance of more devastating wounds there and just causing more damage in general. Was better, sustained hits or the reroll all hits and wounds, but that one does use a command point. I would lean towards the Undivided, but if you brought Abaddon and was nearby, then you get the full reroll hits. It might be better to go Slanesh because you're rerolling those hits and getting more sustained hits. Just means more dice, more dice, more dice. So that's quite good there. Other things mentioned as well, Master of Possession to go along with them, gives them +1 to advance and charge, also gains 6 up Feel No Pain, and then you could also give that Master of Possession Liber Hereticus for lethal and sustained hits, and the full strat reroll in the unit. That might be a really nice combination there. And finally we come to Obliterators. Now this may be a unit that I'm going to be dying on a hill for, but I'm going to discuss it anyway. So in terms of stats, woefully slow. I think you're going to have to deep strike them in just about every time if they want to get into the thick of it. Reasonably tough. You do have toughness 7, 2 up save, 5 wounds, obsec 2. Not bad, not bad. You'd maybe want them to have maybe that 1 extra wound to really sell them on that one, but maybe that's asking a little bit too much. After all, they are just infantry. In terms of weapons, they're a profile for all situations with the guns, though very, very random amount of shots, so that can be a bit swinging there. And melee is also not bad. They get 4 attacks, strength 9, AP -2 and 2 damage. That with a 4-man squad is going to hurt quite a bit there. In terms of abilities, Warp Rift Firepower is not great but not terrible. Indirect Fire gives too many bonuses to opponent, and personally I prefer something different. It just means in that one occasion where you just can't see something, terrain's going to be a big thing in this edition of Feel, then you can at least get some firepower on them. But really, I'd hope a smart deep strike would really get you to the point of where you need to be targeting. Though at 4 inches, latter turns you might struggle to actually be able to see anything. Overall thoughts, can be great as a standalone unit where you can see other ones need stratagems, though these guys could use them as well, or leaders. On their own, they might be quite good. So handy for midfield because their melta is 24 inches, meaning you're going to be in melta range at 12, meaning you get that extra melta 2, so their guns could be damage 6 each. Now if you've got a unit 4, that's 4d3, that could really melt something quite efficiently. Like I want to take these guys undivided for the full reroll hits and wound stratagem. I think in the shooting phase that seems like the unit that would probably benefit most, but I'm open to debate on that one. But Tzeentch to recover wounds and a model would also work well with their stratagem. And they do okay in combat. Even if they're tied up, you can use a stratagem to fall back, shoot, and then charge again, which really does bring quite a bit of efficiency for them, especially if you do use a Dark Pact. And I suppose you can only use the Dark Pact and you'd be rolling for 1 in the shooting phase and 1 in the fight phase. Depends on your situation there. But overall, as Obliterators, this has been discussed a lot, is that points are going to debate them. In previous editions, they have been way too expensive for what they do. So it is going to be a very fine line of where their points land with these guys per model. I don't know where they're going to be in terms of, are they going to be really good? I think if they were in the 70 to 80 mark, possibly really good. If in the past, I think we've seen them at 105 to 115 points before, give or take. And when you're taking a 4-man squad of that, that's obscene because that's pushing you way over the 400 points, maybe even pushing above 450 possibly, if they're 115. And that, to me, using up so many points in a unit like that might be too much. But I love Obliterators. I think there are some cool models, use them for many, many additions. I can see potential here. As I said, standalone unit, they've got some synergy there with stratagems and their marks. Yeah, I like them. If they're cheap, I am definitely going to use them. And that is it for my thoughts on Chaos Space Marines Datasheet's 5 unit highlights. Not everyone's going to agree with them, but I think there's a healthy spread within the codex of things and combinations that work, that you can see different uses for different units. I do think there's many areas that need to be tweaked, but in general for the codex, I am actually pretty happy with these data sheets so far. Just some tidying up, and I think it would be a really, really efficient codex when it comes out. So I'm intrigued to see when that happens. What are your guys' thoughts for this top 5, these unit highlights? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks again, and we'll see you on our Tabletop Assault Battle Report.